Okay, let's get into another TV guide. This one's from April of 1980. So I've done couple from the 83, 86, and 78. So this one falls kind of in between that. If you know my channel, you know I'm mostly going to cover 70s and 80s. That was the era that where broadcast TV was ruling the airwaves. Cable wasn't really proliferating yet. 3 major channels. Let's get into this. And we'll see if this has any cable listings. I think the 83 TV guides had a few cable channels. We'll see what 1980 has. So we got Mel's Diner, Alice on the front cover. Never watched this show as a kid. Watched some episodes a few years ago. It's a pretty good show. You got Mel, you got Flo, and you got Alice, who was the star. And she went on to do some other shows as well. All right, before I even opened the cover, I saw we got a cigarette ad here. I gotta make a commentary on these reviews. So, how irrelevant is this Robert McKenzie guy? Movie reviews kind of make sense because you're going to the movies, you may or may not want to spend your money, but it makes no sense to review a TV show. If you want to watch it, you can watch it and find out for yourself. You don't need this dude, Robert McKenzie, telling you what's good and what isn't. So these review articles, I think they're in every TV guide I've seen so far. What a joke. All right, on to the fun stuff. Check out that car. Could be a Firebird. Could be a Trans Am. Does anybody know what that is? The Avon lady's calling. So part of the fun of these TV guides, we are going through, we're documenting, we're learning stuff. But part of the fun is like the ads for the TV shows that are coming on that week. I don't linger too long on the articles. If something crazy or interesting catches my eye, I'll talk about some of these articles. Ad number 2, who's keeping count? Teldrin, antihistamine. I don't remember that one. So I was a little young in 1980. I really got into TV in the early 80s. So we'll see how much of this stuff I remember. That's Mel Blanc. I recognize his face. He's the one that did all the voices. How he did all those different voices, I have no idea, because they were all so distinctive. Incredible voice talent. Don't you just hate that pretty woman winning all that money? Something about game shows. It's kind of a fun drawing there. Ad number 3. If you haven't taken a smoke break yet, hit pause, go take your smoke break, come back. Or if you're watching on your phone, you don't even have to hit pause. Sears ad, that's fun. Switching over to political softball. Wow, we're up to 4 cigarette ads already? Is that right? More 60-minute stuff. She's really pushing that. This might be talking about some movies that are coming on this week. Again, I believe in this era we're mainly talking about TV, not cable, so not your pay channels that you might be used to now. Looks like Kevin Dooley from Los Angeles felt so strongly that he wrote into the TV guide. So did Marjorie Farber from San Fran. Every one of these guides is from a different region, so we'll see what region this one's from. That's always a fun part of this, too. Sports and specials. Wild World of Stunts is coming on. Just seeing what else that might be funny. Fishing with Roland Martin. All right, so it looks like this one is from Idaho. So I haven't gone through one from Idaho yet. Looks like it even serves Salt Lake City though. Check this out. So this TV guide in 80 would be printed up for all these markets right here. So the time zones might throw us off on this one. I believe that would be 2 hours off of East Coast time. Saturday morning in 1980. Let's see what was on. Super Globetrotters cartoon. That sounds awesome. World's Greatest Super Friends. Mighty Mouse, Heckle and Jekyll. I mean, that sounds awesome. You got to set your alarm for 6 a.m. though. Again, that could be because on the East Coast it's already 8. I don't know. Fred and Barney Meet Shmoo. Plastic Man had his own cartoon. I think I remember seeing ads in comic books for that one. He's one of the DC characters. Daffy Duck's got his own cartoon. Scrappy was already out in 1980. Fat Albert. Everybody in the late 70s, early 80s loved that show, including myself. Saw a Godzilla cartoon and another one that I went through here. Flash Gordon cartoon. I vaguely remember that. That was pretty cool. Let's see who's on American Bandstand. Tommy James. He did that Crystal Blue Persuasion song. Madness. Wow, that's odd. I mean, 80s was full of great music. Surprised you see some big names there. Because American Bandstand was as good as it gets, as big as it gets. Bill Moyers back in 1980. Got some baseball coming on. So this would have been April 19th. Baseball would have just be getting started. But there probably was not much else on because football and hockey were over with in basketball. 30 Minutes, a show called 30 Minutes. Then at noon you got some cartoons. That's interesting because it seemed like from 10 to noon there wasn't much. All right, there's always fun stuff to see in here. Showing some old movies. That's what you're going to get in the middle of the day on Saturday. But again, if you didn't live through this era, look how slim your pickings were during the day. You might have had 2 or 3 things to choose from. So you definitely watched Star Trek cartoon. But Wild World of Stunts was probably fun too. Our Gang, that might have been the Little Rascals. Apologize if I'm wrong about that. Bunch of Wild World of Sports, Sports Spectacular, Pool Players. Got wrestling back in 1980. Wrestling really got big, and from what I remember, in like 83, 84. So it might have been some pretty backwoods stuff in 1980 if you're watching on Channel 17. Again, Saturday during the day, probably repeats and stuff, but I see one that catches my eye. Get Smart. Who was the woman that played 99? She was so cute. Get Smart was a great show from the 60s. Super fun. Great intro. If you haven't heard of that or seen it, at least look up the intro to Get Smart. Look at this. Incredible Hulk. The Thanksgiving holiday draws David back to his family's farm. Co-starring. If you haven't seen my other videos, this is another fun thing about TV Guide. They're giving the co-stars in this particular episode of Hulk. Don't see any I recognize, but sometimes there's some known names here. And again, at 7, since we're in a different market, Not sure if this would be what would be coming on at 8 or 9 on the East Coast or not. But I see BJ and the Bear. Who remembers that? Who remembers that the bear was a monkey? Make sense of that if you can. It all made sense to us in the 70s and 80s. Challenge of the Sexes. These were fun. They would take TV stars, usually from the network that aired it. So these might be all CBS TV stars. Almost kind of embarrassing for some of them because they'd have them doing like some seriously athletic stuff. But let's take a quick look and see. We got the Rams cheerleaders versus the Hudson brothers, whoever that is. I see Tom Wopat over here. Joan Van Ark versus Leif Garrett. Melissa Gilbert versus some guy named Jay Johnson in kayak. See what I mean? You got Melissa Gilbert from New Little House on the Prairie out there trying to do some kayak. Sometimes you'd find out which of these actors really had some natural athleticism, and sometimes it would be the opposite case. Aaron Gray's out there doing dune buggy. We're learning on this because this is some crazy nuts stuff. This is what we used to watch and think was normal back in the day. Let's see what else. Andy Gibbs doing obstacle course. He was the heartthrob for all the ladies. Leave a like if you loved Andy Gibb. Catherine Bach, we know her as Daisy Duke. She's doing a bike race against Tom Wopat. Brooke Shields versus Scott Baio in roller skating. What does that even mean? Maybe they do like a 100-yard dash in roller skates. These are probably on the internet somewhere if you want to find these. Gil Gerard is playing pool, billiards. Hilarious. And fun, don't get me wrong. It was fun entertainment. I definitely watched a few of those. Love Boat's coming on Saturday night. They always had some great guest stars on that show. Fun, lighthearted show. All the background girls in bikinis wearing high heels for some reason. Make sense of that if you want. We always got our local news people in these. I didn't remember that, but as I've been going through these. So if you lived in Salt Lake, maybe this was your guy. Fantasy Island's coming on. Yeah, Love Boat Fantasy Island was definitely the 1-2 punch for me as a youngster. Love both of those shows. And again, I'm just looking at the guest stars. I don't see any that I recognize off the top of my head. Monty Python, so that probably would have been the PBS channel showing that. Dallas is coming on. I don't make comments on every one of these ads, just the ones that I want to point out and or make fun of. Saturday Night Live. See, it's coming on at 10:30 out in this market. Character actor Strother Martin. Okay. Dukes of Hazzard coming on. Okay, so I don't know when Dukes debuted or premiered, but I feel like 1980 might have been its first year. Maybe 79. We all remember the Duke Boys, Boss Hogg, Uncle Jesse. And Dad tolerated it because he liked to see Daisy Duke when she got over her Jeep. That's incredible. I talked about that in another one of my episodes. That was a fun show. Columbo coming on at night. Probably a rerun. I might break down Columbo at some point in one of my videos. Deconstruct it and show you how shallow it was. But people love Columbo, and hey, I don't hate on it for that reason. Get Smart Again. What was her name? Somebody leave a comment. Just seeing what's on at very super late at night. Sometimes there'd be some scary movies on regular TV, 1, 2 a.m. Of course, now they come on all hours of the day, but back then you had to stay up late and really scare yourself. Sunday mornings usually not much to linger on. You can see you got Jimmy Swaggart, Oral Roberts, Gospel Singing Jubilee with the Florida Boys. Tabernacle Choir. And I guess this would be after football season, so it might be interesting to see what sports, if any, come on in April back in the day. Looks like there are some cartoons coming on. That Girl, who remembers that show? NBA playoff, okay. So April, that's right, I guess. We got the Eastern Conference game. We got golf. We got boxing. Marvin Hagler was one of the best to ever do it at welterweight, I believe. Marvelous Marvin. How do I know all these things? And if you're watching, I just go through these with you. I don't look through them in advance. I like to discover this stuff along with you. I think this is motor oil, Kanoko. All right, we're getting into the evening, Sunday evening. Not a ton of ads yet, but hopefully we'll see some. Muppet Show, late 70s, 80s staple, especially for kids. Even the cynical Statler and Waldorf. Oh, those are those two old guys. I'm trying to see who's on. Oh, Diana Ross is on. So that's great. That's a great snapshot of the time. Hee Haw, don't discount Hee Haw. We all gathered together. People who loved all kind of music watched Hee Haw. Let's see who was on there. John Conley, Susie Allinson, Jana Lee, Body Human documentary, The Best of Donnie Marie. There you go. So I don't know if Donnie Marie was still on at this time because this says The Best of. But that was one of the few variety shows that I definitely enjoyed when I was a little kid. I think some of the variety shows kind of appealed to adults, and something about Donnie and Marie had a more youthful spirit to it. And they were huge stars at the time. Okay, yeah, here's what I was mentioning about the ads. So this is kind of part of the fun of going through these is, reading the text is somewhat not as exciting, but these ads are great. Just so happens I just rewatched this movie like 2 days ago. Doesn't get much better than Redford and Newman. Ladies, leave a like if you're a Robert Redford fan. There's Daisy Duke, some great original artwork, big old one-page, full-page ad for the Dukes of Hazzard. Oh, it's a 2-hour movie. Dukes defy death and each other. That's great. I don't see any particular guest stars on there, but Galactica 1980. I just learned of this like a few days ago. There was a Battlestar Galactica. They tried to bring it back because it only lasted one season in 1978. They tried to bring it back as a super low budget in 1980 with none of the original casts. So Galactica 1980 I think is pretty notoriously bad. Here's a write-up on the Sting. Yeah, as you can see with the listings, there's no mention of cable channels, so this would have probably just been on a regular broadcast channel with commercials and probably edited and so forth. So that 2-hour Dukes movie is going to preempt Alice and the Jeffersons on this particular Sunday night. Chips coming on Sunday night. We loved that show. Just seeing again the guest stars. Sometimes some stars get their start on these shows as just a guest spot. Okay, so they are mentioning HBO here in 1980. And maybe it's only available in these certain markets. You got to call in, tell them to hook your stuff up. They got Telly Savalas with a bunch of females there. Here's Alice, who we saw on the cover, and the Jeffersons. Jeffersons was a fun show. Rocky Mountain Emmy Awards. Okay. Hope there's more about that in here. I bet hopefully there will be, maybe an ad or something. Because show of hands, who's heard of the Rocky Mountain Emmy Awards? I don't cover every single thing, so I'm sure there's a couple things I'm missing. Another cigarette ad, all kinds of stats on how good it is for you. The government even says it's good for you, according to this ad. So there you have it. Case closed. All right, Monday morning, get up early. Mom's telling you to put on your pants, but you're trying to watch some cartoons. So maybe you're watching Captain Kangaroo. I never watched that show. Not a lot of cartoons, though. Watch some yoga. So maybe Mom's right. There is nothing else to do but put your pants on. Price is Right, coming on at 9. Laverne and Shirley. All right. Just scanning here to see if there's anything funny coming on during the day. I mean, there's stuff we know about. Young and the Restless, All My Children. Those shows have been going forever. Looks like in the afternoon you are going to get to catch some Flintstones and maybe some children's stuff. Gilligan's Island. $6 Million Man. There we go. Steve poses as a magician. Porky Pig and Friends. Yes, looks like none in the morning that I spotted, but some in the afternoon after school. Was MASH. Again, these would be different markets, so that's why you get different channels. In one market you might have this channel, in a different market you might have that channel. Little House is coming on. So this might be the first run of Little House. This might have been a repeat over here. Coming on Monday nights. Melissa Gilbert, guest stars, nobody notable. WKRP, who remembers that show? Waikiki. Donna Mills. I'd tune in for her. Looks like this is a movie. Terror in Paradise, starring Donna Mills. She might be walking around in a bikini if she's in Waikiki. Stockard Channing comedy. Never heard of that. Again, I think that's why it's useful to go through these. They're going to be lost for all time if it wasn't for me. James Michener's World. All right, let's see. MASH is coming on Monday nights, and some movies, and this James Michener's World, Women in Sports. Hollywood Whodunit, Lou Grant. Flo had her own spin-off show. That's how popular she was. She was from that Mel's Diner show. Boston Marathon coming on Monday night. Bob Newhart, people found him funny for some reason. Streets of San Francisco, most likely a rerun. I think that's where Michael Douglas got his start. Policewoman, that was an epic show. Probably, again, reruns from the 70s. What was her name? I can't remember her name off the top of my head. So we've seen the daytime stuff. There might be something that we didn't spot, or maybe there's a funny movie on during the day. Like every day you could watch The $6 Million Man. I haven't seen The Bionic Woman mentioned yet. And she was awesome. Lindsay Wagner. Maybe I just haven't looked through the right TV guide yet. Speak Up America. A show for the little guy. Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe movie. This looks interesting. I wonder if there'll be another ad, because this ad here looked like it was kind of in conjunction with this Kraft cheese slices or something. We'll see. We'll flip back to it if we have to. Yeah, there's that Speak Up America. Billy Graham's got a whole page ad. The Big Show. So this is Tuesday night. And again, some of these I haven't heard of, so I don't know if this was a regular thing or just like a one-time special. Let's see who's on. Sid Caesar. He wouldn't have been that popular at this point in 1980. Gallagher was very popular. David Copperfield was very popular. Shabba-Doo. Portrait of a Rebel, Margaret Sanger. Like made for TV movie starring Bonnie Franklin. Laverne and Shirley coming on Tuesday nights. That was a great, great show. The Big Show, some kind of variety show hosted by Steve Allen. Three's Company coming on Tuesday nights. So this was when Suzanne Summers was still on. Okay. I think she was only on the first season or two. So this was still when you had Suzanne Summers on. Taxi. Heart to Heart. Talked about that in other videos. No notable guest stars. It's nice that they list them, though. United States comedy drama with Beau Bridges. Okay. Austin City Limits on Tuesday nights. Honky Tonk Singers. Good Old Boys. I wonder if that's the theme from Dukes of Hazzard that they're doing. There's more about that line. I think it was a 2-night event here, this little cartoon adaptation. That's Byron Allen. Check it out. Real people. You guys recognize all these names I keep calling out. Bewitched would be in syndication, but that was a great show. Brady Bunch in syndication during the day on a weekday. Look at this ad. Quincy. Talked about Matlock in one of my other videos. Quincy was another one of those. Kind of an older dude. He was a doctor. He would always figure out everything. He was a forensic pathologist or whatever. Jack Klugman. Again, appealed probably to an older audience, but at least, at least they had something like that on the air. So that Quincy was a pretty big show for a few years. Different Strokes has got Muhammad Ali guest starring. How great is that? I don't remember that episode. Looks like they're doing a in-depth ABC close-up on nukes and uranium. And Charlie's Angels is still on. Looks like that comes on Wednesday night. It looks like Wednesday night's a pretty good night. Different Strokes. Let's see who's on Charlie's Angels. So Cheryl Ladd was on, so that means Farrah was no longer on. But I've said it before, Cheryl Ladd fills out a bikini like nobody else. Guest starring nobody that I recognize. Some show called Hello Larry with Joey Travolta. There's Quincy. Somebody made some notes here. This is wrong. Richard Dawson, host. So they're getting upset because it says something about this tonight. And they made a note of it. All right, Thursday during the day. So a little surprised there's no cartoons in the morning on weekdays in this market. So if you lived in Utah, you had to watch Captain Kangaroo. Mandy's grandmother. Maude was popular. Maybe she comes on Thursday nights, we'll see. The MX missile is kind of funny snapshot. You know, this is all interesting information. That's why we're going through these. Baryshnikov on Broadway. IBM Presents. So IBM was a thing in 1980. I think they were around in the 60s. All right, let's see what else comes on Thursday night. 6 o'clock Follies. Palmerstown, USA. Yeah, you got me. Hagen. And again, I'm scanning the names to see if, even if we don't recognize the name of the show, maybe we recognize some of the actors, but I can't spot any that I know. Rockford Files is a big show. Contender. Thursday night's like the night of all these shows we've never heard of. I feel like I've heard of Mark Singer. Love American Style. Who remembers that show? Show of hands in the audience. That was a fun show. I don't know how many seasons it lasted. It's fun, lighthearted. I think it had like several little vignettes in one episode. So it's like Baryshnikov's got Liza with him. So that's a good lineup. See what else, if they mention any other. Nell Carter, she's great. It's the only ones I recognize. Get a weekend escape for $49. Take your wife to the Best Western. All right, we're already into Friday. There's always some stuff in the back, too. Wheel of Fortune's on during the day again. There's some more local news people. If you lived in Iowa, Boise, and or I don't know what market he would have been in. Check this out. All right, Friday night. What's going on Friday nights? When the Whistle Blows comedy. Yeah, 1980, I don't want to judge it on this one TV guy, but it's some interesting shows. Looks like Dukes of Hazzard was on Friday nights. Could be like a rerun from earlier in the week. Yeah, repeat. Sometimes they would do that back in the 70s and 80s. They would show, like the main show would come on, let's say Thursday night, and then they'd show it again on like Saturday night in case you missed it. And only be a few shows they would do that for. So Dukes of Hazzard was probably pretty popular for them to do that. All in the Family, PM Magazine Utah. Here's Boomer. How the West Was Won. Facts of Life, there we go. That'll be worth watching on a Friday. Dukes of Hazzard. Here's some more local TV people. Jane Goodall documentary, Grizzly Adams. What a great show for kids, for the family. Grizzly Adams hanging out with his giant bear, getting into trouble. Either the bear gets into trouble and Grizzly Adams gets him out, or vice versa. Tune in every week. It's a fun show. Another local news person from Idaho Falls. Lots of mustaches in the 70s and 80s. NBA playoffs. Might have been some highlights that late at night. The Midnight Special with Captain and Tennille, the Jacksons, Rod Stewart, Donna Summer, Barry Manilow, Linda Ronstadt, Elton John, Jim Croce. That'd be worth staying up for if you could. Yeah, Midnight Special was, I don't know when it aired or when was its peak, but it was a pretty great music show. Here's our crossword puzzle. Our Velveeta. Doesn't that look appetizing, the way they got those frankfurters in that cheese? Makes you want to sink your teeth right in. Datsun 200SX. Don't remember the 200. The D210 was the big one. Here's another cigarette ad. Let's see what this little cartoon says. If elected, would you try to fool some of the people all the time, all the people some of the time, and go for the big one, all the people all the time? Check out those shoes. I don't know about you guys, when you grow up, but you'd have one pair of shoes. And you'd wear it out. So you'd wear that one pair of sneakers everywhere. There's that show there with Brizhnikov. They're doing a little more on that. Maverick jeans and sportswear. That's a cool looking ad. Hollywood Clout. Don't care about that. Here's some more cigarettes. Low tar. Got a casino ad. I guess because they're close enough to Reno. If you lived in Utah. Waste Away. And closing it out with one more. Thanks for joining me, folks.